Alisa is a PlayStation 1 style survival horror game created impressively by one guy, Casper Crows. Inspired by Resident Evil and Jan Svinkmeyer's 1988 film Alice, one being a classic horror game and the other a surreal Alice in Wonderland film. I've actually seen this movie. I watched it around 2014 or so. All I remember is that it had this creepy stop motion animation, and every time somebody spoke, it would cut to a pair of lips.
Said the Mad Hatter.
Said the king wearily.
Said the Mad Hatter.
Screamed the Queen of Hearts.
In Alisa, you play as, well, Alisa, an elite royal agent trying to catch this little fat boy before he finds out the Earth is flat. Oof, too late. What the fuck? The Earth isn't flat? Then what's this game about?
Dolls.
Alisa is trapped in a dollhouse with all kinds of creepy cogwheel contraptions creeping about. Keys to find, puzzles to solve, exploration to be had, and backtracking to make you mad, sometimes. Everything you would expect from a classic survival horror game, with a few extra drippings to make it its own. If you're familiar with the genre, you know what to expect. Puzzles, key items, fixed cameras, tank controls. It's all here and it comes across as very authentic, with some puzzles even requiring me to take notes at times. Haven't had to do that in a while. The expected is all well and good, but it is, after all, expected. What's important here is what makes Alisa unique. The environments are stellar. The first one is a mansion area, coming off as extremely reminiscent of the first Resident Evil. Don't be fooled though, as this game is way more than your typical Resi clone. One minute you'll be exploring a normal mansion, the next you'll be making your way through traps, only to find yourself in a circus surrounded by dolls, clapping and cheering, hooting and hollering in the hopes that you'll be homicidally haunted by the horrific bedsheet ghost riding tricycles.
I can't see fucking shit out of this thing.
Enemy designs are all over the place, in a good way. Dolls, glass fishmen, some dickhead with a gun. They're all varied and some only pop up once throughout the entire game. This contortionist guy here only appears once in this room and is never used again. They're changed up frequently, and it adds to the mile-a-minute pace this game already has. The only thing tying all these guys together is the fact that they're all dolls, filled with tooth wheels. You'll use these to buy stuff from the merchant, Pole. I love this goofy little guy. You'll be able to buy a limited amount of health and ammo. You can also buy weapons and dresses that aren't only cosmetic, but have stats and special abilities tied to them. The nurse dress makes you more proficient with your heals, and the black dress lets you reload faster. I've always been a sucker for unlockable costumes, and Alisa has no shortage of them. This may seem at odds with the survival horror nature, as this highly incentivizes you to kill everything, possibly putting it more in line with the likes of Resi 4 or Dino Crisis 2, depending on how you look at it. At the same time, you could look at the currency as just another resource to manage. Should I use my handgun ammo to kill this doll, so I can get enough tooth wheels to buy a med pack? Or, should I risk getting in even closer, using a melee weapon to save ammo and possibly get tooth wheels without expending any resources? Most of the time melee was the answer, but the choice and options made me think before I acted. Whether or not you think this disqualifies it as a survival horror game is entirely up to you. To me, Alisa is the funny uncle of survival horror, more concerned with letting you have a fun time. Depending on your choices, your first playthrough might feel like a New Game Plus run. Some of the weapons you can purchase come across as things that you would unlock for S rank in an RE title. Once you beat the first boss, he'll appear as a puppet.
So you defeated Beer. Well done.
Hey, Puppet Pal Clam!
Ah!
You can swap between the two. Dr. Edmondson sells body modifications, and more importantly, he sells rewards after you beat each boss. Think about it like trading in boss souls in Dark Souls. Actually, there was a couple moments that reminded me of Dark Souls. Another example is where if you help this little doll girl, she'll return the favor, kinda like a summon in a Souls game.
Hey, what's that? Doll.
Even though I made these comparisons while I was playing, I really didn't want to bring them up. We have enough people comparing every game to Dark Souls. Then I read this on the game's Kickstarter page. The creator actually did take inspiration from the Souls series, Bloodborne to be exact, and also Call of Duty? Weird. I guess the COD inspo is in the loadouts. You can hold 2 weapons at a time and swap between them without opening a menu. I normally have 1 gun and 1 melee weapon. I specifically like the spear. You can do a little jab with it, or you can throw it. You can get it as a reward from Edith, the water boss. Her whole area is really cool, probably my favorite area in the game. It's got the glass fishmen walking around. They'll explode into glass chunks when they die, and if you walk across them barefoot you'll take damage. Just one of the many cool little details the game has. The music in this area is also really good. Actually, I'd go as far as to say the whole soundtrack is great. It's composed by Arisa Yoshimura, and it really reminds me a lot of what Richard Band does for the Full Moon movies. Probably only like Two people know what I mean by that. It has kind of an eerie quality to it that could also pass as music in a children's horror movie, if that makes any sense. I really dig it. Just like the soundtrack, the game as a whole has this playfulness to it. It's not super scary, it has its moments, but for the most part I'd be saying aloud to myself, "What the fuck is that?" or "Whoa, that's so cool." This may not work for everyone, but it definitely does for me. I love when horror just has fun with its premise and pushes it beyond its limits, even if that means getting goofy with it. Jack Baker yelling groovy during a chainsaw fight, Ash getting attacked by Henrietta in the fruit cellar. That one scene in Barbarian that I'm not gonna spoil, go see Barbarian. Things that people could consider scary and that others will find funny. I get a kick out of that shit.
I was almost a sandwich.
I played through this game 3 times in just a few days, and it keeps giving me reasons to come back. Multiple endings, a butt-ton of weapons and costumes to unlock, secrets to be found. It wasn't until my 3rd playthrough that I found a fucking fishing minigame. I almost hate to say it, but about 2 hours into my first run I almost quit. I was getting so frustrated. Your aim is a lot more manual than most other games of this ilk. There's an orange indicator in the corner that lets you know your shots lined up properly. Having to manually aim at these quick-moving, low-to-the-ground enemies was infuriating. After a while I got used to it and it wasn't that bad, but I can definitely see why some people may have stopped playing because of this. But trust me, stick with it. It does get easier. You might also encounter a bug or something that requires you to reload a save. I had a couple problems with this clock puzzle. I don't know if it was a bug or if I'm just dumb, but the way this sequence repeats without any clear indication as to where it starts makes this puzzle way harder than it needs to be. Most of the game's shortcomings I can look past, because I can see the love and passion this one man has put into each wobbly PS1 style polygon. The game has so much personality dripping from every porcelain pore, from its creative environments, enemy design, and its inspired use of gameplay mechanics from other genres that, while not entirely original, when put under the survival horror umbrella, create something all its own. Though this doll is made of repurposed pieces, it is wholly unique.
Sad legend.